Welcome to the Indeed Knowledge Series on evidence-based evaluation and evidence-based policy and practice for another one of our video interviews. This time we have the opportunity to speak with Rut Bermejo Casado. Rut, welcome to the Indeed video interview series.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful to have you with us.
A pleasure.
So Rut, you are Associate Professor in Politics and Public Policies at Rey Juan Carlos University in Madrid in the Law and Political Science faculty. You're Director of the MA in Criminal Profiling at the university since 2016 and the Academic Secretary of the Good Governance Observatory. And you're also a member of the Scientific Council of the Allocating think tank. Could you share with us a bit as well about your background and the research and work you've done in the field of preventing and countering violent extremism and de-radicalization?
Okay, thank you for inviting me to this knowledge series. I began working on this area of public policies around 2015. Remember that I was invited to some RAN meetings, and also the Spanish government decided to, after passing the new plan on preventing violent radicalization, they had to implement that, and we began working and collaborating with them in designing the training for all the actors that need to be involved in the plan. So I think that's more or less the first year we began working on that. After that, we have done some European projects on the topics, and we are working for some years now.
You mentioned the Spanish government developing its policies, and we're actually doing this interview now here in Madrid on March 11th, which is quite a tragic and significant date in Spanish history.
It is, you're right, yeah.
So the focus of our interview is on evaluation of policies and looking at evaluating policies of governments and other actors in the field of preventing and countering violent extremism and de-radicalization. Could you tell us a little bit, what does it mean, policy evaluation in this field?
If I were at a classroom at the university, we always explain evaluation as one of the stages of the public policy. So it's one of the key policies when we do a public policy analysis. So it's the last one of the stages in a policy, but it's very important, and I think we will talk about that later. And prevention of violent radicalization is like any other policy, public policy we analyze or we design and implement. So the same logic that we have when a government design a policy has to be done in this area. So for us, it's a key essential stage in every public policy that a government thinks on implementing or design or works on. So we say usually that is the final stage. Before we have different models, but we talk about policy definition of the problem, policy formulation, the adoption of a decision, implementation, and evaluation. So it's one of the key stages.
So then, evaluation as a key stage, what is its scope? What is its purpose? What are we looking at or trying to understand when we speak about evaluating policies in the field?
When we explain that to our students, we usually say that it's the final stage, but at the same time it's a very important stage, because it means a lot of things. For us, it means is the end of the policy cycle, and at the end of the policy cycle you need to evaluate to know what is working as you intended and what is not working as you planned. So it's essential as the final stage of the policy process, but it's also essential because it has to provide us with the elements for the feedback to the policy. So the feedback that provides us evaluation is key essential for redesigning the policy if something is not working as expected, as we said, or whatever you need. Maybe you realize that you have achieved all your objectives, and then you have to end the policy. So it's has a very important purpose, because it says or it's give you an idea of what has been done and how you need to continue, if you need to change something in order to continue with your policy.
So you're speaking about doing evaluation of policies or policy evaluation in what we would often refer to as a summative or a final evaluation. The policies have been implemented or for a certain period, and then evaluating the policies to see what have they achieved their results, what can be learned from that. I should also mention that within the Indeed project, one of the ideas we're trying to bring forward into the field is also to introduce more utilization of formative evaluation or ex-ante evaluation. So when policies are being developed, to really draw upon available evidence, expertise of stakeholders and professionals in the field to see, are those policies really addressing the issues that are needed, and what can be learned from the experiences of other policies that can help us to shape and to make more robust and more effective policies within our countries and at different levels. Now, you've spoken quite a bit about some of the challenges that are involved in doing policy evaluation. Could you tell us what are some of those challenges?
Yeah, so just if you allow me
Please.
just a small clarification about that. You are right, we are talking about the final stage of evaluation when a public policy has been implemented, but it doesn't mean that you cannot use or incorporate other types of evaluation during the whole policy process. So I agree with you that all of them are possibilities, but at least we need, from time to time, we need to stop and think about the policy and to provide feedback about that. So I think they are not incompatible to have different types of evaluation and in different stages of the policy process, as you said. Thank
Exactly.
you for the clarification.
Thank you too. And so challenges in doing this. We know that there haven't been that many evaluations of policies, or it's not an area which that much work has been done on so far in Europe. What do you see as some of the challenges of trying to carry out evaluations of national policies, strategies, national action plans?
I could say that, at least in my experience, evaluation is not quite common, if we can say, in all policy areas. For example, here in Spain, there is sometimes the idea that evaluation is something like to pass an exam, when you are going to be rated from 0 to 10, and if you are a bit scared about not achieving the 9 or the 10, then you can have problems. So this is one of the things in general that we can say that some countries are not very used to. I'm talking about Spain because it's the one I know most, but it's also something that occurs in other countries. If we talk about our colleagues in Portugal or in Italy, they also think about or agree with that. But said that is in general applicable for all policy areas. In this particular area of prevention on countering violent extremism, we have some other aspects that make more difficult to the evaluation. One has to do with sensitivity. Sometimes even the plans or the Spanish plan and the Spanish strategy, part of it is public, but another part is not public, is secret. So we can think that the policy is not very open to public, and so to involve others in evaluation is one problem due to this sensitivity of the topic. And but at the same time, as our administration is not very well prepared in some aspect to do this internal evaluation, then we have a gap that we don't want to involve external evaluators, but at the same time, some of the areas have not the skills to do the evaluation, internal evaluation by themselves. So in this topic is a particular characteristic one in this sense. And also when we talk about the Spanish strategy and the Spanish plan, the resources to implement it was not was zero. Zero money, so in that
implement
sense,
the policy or to implement the evaluation of it?
No, to implement the plan.
The plan itself.
It was thought as part of the Spanish anti-terrorist environment, so no special or part of the task that the traditional actors involved in preventing violent and radical terrorists had to incorporate in their job. So it was a new task to implement, but no new resources, new people was hired for that. Okay. So in that sense, you have no new money for implementation and you have no money for evaluation as well. So it's something very difficult to carry out in that sense.
And that's actually something that we've seen in a number of member states of the European Union, that national action plans have been developed, but sometimes not with dedicated budgets for implementation. You spoke also in terms of the sensitivity of the topics, and sometimes also the sensitivity of the information involved. We know with law enforcement agencies or intelligence services, they have regulations that affect how they share information in their work, and that can affect having the information available for doing evaluation. And you also mentioned the sometimes lack of capacity or lack of a culture of evaluation, which can be quite prevalent as well. Can I ask you, we've been speaking about evaluation of national action plans and strategies and policies so far, but I'd like to look at it from the other angle. When these policies are being developed, who is involved in that process? Who are the stakeholders that are involved in the creation of national action plans and strategies in this field? And are any missing? Are there any gaps in that stage or that part of the process, the formation and development of the strategies?
Yes, I think due to the context of more of the implementation of most of the strategies in the European Union, it was a context of terrorist attacks, and there was a call from the European Commission to implement plans and strategy to prevent violent radicalization. So the moment or the context you decide to incorporate this policy in your national policies, I think in this case of the prevention and countering violent radicalization was key, because it made it to be very focused on the main actors in the implementation of this plan and strategy were the ministries of interior. I think it was very linked to counterterrorism, and then it came the same way, no? Or the same, or to be implemented by them.
So it came from that direction,
yeah,
and that background.
And rely on the Ministry of Interior in most of the countries for designing and implementing the policies. And that was, I think that was a problem in the idea that if you want a policy that is whole of society, and you want to have a very participatory policy, and also you want to involve a lot of different stages, actors, for example, local actors, regional actors. So that was one of the issues, I think, related to the context and how it came to the different states, but also the idea that part of the strategy was secret, was not made public. It was also a problem because you you were not able to explain what was the problem, what was the characteristics, where you couldn't talk openly about this strategy. So you have to involve someone in something that they don't know exactly what it is and how it's being done. So that's also a problem when you are trying to implement a multi-actor, multi-agency policy.
So a very challenging and complicated area and a very challenging and complicated context to try to develop policy on. But when we speak about evidence-based evaluation and evidence-based policy and practice, we often refer to the three key components. One, drawing on the best available evidence of what has been gathered through evaluation and through learning and knowledge in the field, but also really engaging with the stakeholders that policies or initiatives are intended to address or will be impacting, and really drawing upon the professional expertise of the field. If you were to think back from what you've seen of national policy formations in Europe, how much are those three key areas for evidence-based policy actually engaged with when national strategies are being created?
I think when you, one part of that is professional collaboration, we could say. It's very difficult if you don't include those people from the beginning. In some countries, I think there is a lack of work or collaboration between the academic, for example, and the police forces. So because they don't want to share information, so that's a problem. And also there were some, we can say, reluctancy from different sectors. For example, teachers don't want things that they have to sign as someone of the students to the police. So they think that that is not their job. Their job is training and educating. So there was, I think there were a lot of misunderstandings because of how the strategies were designed and how they came to the different states. But also something, and it's something we say in general when we talk about public policy, you need to incorporate in the definition of the problem all those actors that are going to be involved in the implementation. Otherwise, it's not being, unless you will do the policy compulsory or the collaboration compulsory, it's very difficult to have everybody working and working together if the idea or the definition of the problem is not a common definition of the problem. So that's something that we have to take into account in this area as we do in other areas. So that was also an important point on that. So professionals were not involved as we know in theory of public policy that need to be included in that way.
So that vital importance of really engaging with all of the affected communities and the stakeholders in that policy formation phase as well. And you spoke earlier about whole of society approaches and comprehensive approaches. Are there any gaps in current strategies and policies that you see? I think we can say, related to what we were talking about, the definition of the problem, I could go again to that because I'm not sure when I read most of the strategy or some of the strategies in different countries in Europe, we can see that they talk about countering and preventing violent extremism, but it's really very different to counter and to prevent. So I think that has been a problem in these policies across Europe, because if you see them as countering violent extremism, you are thinking on some actors, some type of measures that are
mainly reactive to when someone is or related to secondary or tertiary prevention. But when you talk about prevention in general, then you are talking about other types of policies. So I think that there was a problem with the definition itself that made all the policy be very tricky for involving all the actors or for implementing them properly, because sometimes you really didn't know what you were asked to collaborate. So that whole of society approach is a bit difficult if you don't have a common definition of the problem. And also, if part of the strategy is secret, as we were saying before, you don't know what are you supposed to be collaborated in, what are you expected to do, how your work is going to influence the work of others. So I think we need to think a bit more, or if we could separate counter violent extremism from preventing violent extremism. For me, that could be an option to be more effective in our policy currently.
Because a lot of policies and a lot of the field so far have been so significantly shaped from their emergence from a counter-terrorism direction and agenda, not necessarily looking at a more comprehensive analysis and understanding of the actual underlying drivers and causes or the conditions which give rise for radicalization and extremism to occur.
So that's, as you are saying, that means that you begin defining a problem in a way, but you want to end up doing a whole society approach. So it's a bit tricky how you are going to fit that, and I'm not sure that is possible in all the cases. So that could be, I think, my analysis about that. That as we were saying, the definition is key, and to incorporate all the actors in identifying what is the problem, what is my view of the problem, my contribution, how can I contribute to solve this problem, do I want to contribute to that, and in what way, what can I do, how can I do it. So and that is something that needs to be thought in order to have more effective, I think, policies, to think if we want to separate counter and prevention, and also to think how we involve all the actors that we want to collaborate in that.
So speaking of having more effective policies, the field has grown significantly over the last decades. We've had a lot more experience, different policies have been tried out, a lot more experience in practice, but also a growing body of knowledge within the field and a growing spectrum of actors. You spoke about a multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder approach. What are some of the key challenges to enhancing evaluation of policies in the field today?
I think some of the points we have talked about them before, but we need to improve what we were saying about the culture of evaluation. For me, as an academic, when I listen to the theory of evaluation, it's very familiar. But when you talk to some of the practitioners who have to do evaluations of and even monitoring during their practices, is not as easy as we define the topic. So as we were talking about, this is a problem for internal evaluation, because those who are practitioners, and we are talking about policemen, or we are talking about people who is working directly, maybe they don't really have the background on evaluation. So if we want to do internal evaluations, that's and during the policy, as you said, not only at the end but during the policy, that's something we need to think. We need to improve their skills, and in order to do external evaluations, we will need money. Of course, we will need to link the the evaluator's expertise or the evaluation expertise with the field. They need to know the field better. But if I have to say something, for me, the main point is the culture of evaluation. In Spain, for example, most or sometimes evaluation comes because a politician is asked in the parliament about what is happening with something, so some kind of evaluation is done in order to answer to that. So there is a part that is politicization that is not something, in my opinion, good for evidence-based evaluation. And we need to improve that cultural evaluation, and that could mean that internal evaluation could be better, but also we will have to, or we will share the money, or we will allocate the resources to do external evaluation. So if we change the idea that evaluation is learning for giving a feedback and for improving our policies instead of being blamed for doing things wrong, I think that would be the initial point to change all the processes and how things are being made.
You've outlined some components of what could be strategies for improving policy evaluations in the preventing and countering violent extremism and de-radicalization fields. Can you tell us about these?
Yes, I think some of the points we've talked about are the culture of evaluation. That means to incorporate the idea that evaluation is something positive, something that helps us to improve our policies and our results, and to use better the money that we have to do that, so we can it can help us to be more efficient in our work. So that's a point that I think is the key one, as we were talking before. But then we will, or if we have this idea that evaluation is something positive, something that helps us in the policy making, then that means that we could or we will be more prone to use more resources on that, to improve capabilities on that. We talk about capacity building on evaluation, and also we can think in other things, like for example, if we have a culture and evaluation, we will be thinking on monitoring better and including, as you said before, evidence-based evaluation to try to collect better evidence, qualitative or quantitative, the type of evidence we want to. And also, I think we will be more open to, if the culture of evaluation is not only something that gets into the politicians and the civil servants, but also in general to the general public, then we could be more open in our results of the evaluation, because that means that we have learned from what we've done, and that will be considered something positive. If the public see evaluations as an exercise of thought and of evidence, and incorporate all that in their idea of evaluation, we will be more prone to receive evaluation, and they will ask more for evaluating what is being done with the public money. So I think that could be the key point in bettering our evaluations, evidence-based evaluation.
Rut, we're doing these interviews with colleagues and experts and practitioners working in the PCVE field, working in evaluation, both all across Europe and also many from around the world. And the videos are intended for practitioners, for academics, for policymakers, for reaching out to our community in the field. And what I'd like to ask you now at the end of the interview is, what would be your message to them, to other academics, to policymakers, to practitioners in the field? if you were to draw together from everything that we've been discussing and from your experience in the field, what would be your final thoughts on policy evaluation and the importance of evaluation in the field?
I think I would repeat the message that evaluation is something positive, is something that allows us to learn, allows us to be more efficient, and is something that we have very clear when a child makes a mistake. We always say, okay, this is an opportunity for you to learn, but we don't take that in our adult life, we can say, and we don't consider that as opportunity to learn. I think self-evaluation and also evaluation carried out externally is something that we can use for that, for being better and for doing things better than before. So I think that's the main or the important message. I know that politicians maybe don't agree with us, but for me it's very clear that is the way to see evaluation and evidence-based evaluations.
I find that it can be challenging at times, and the area of politics and policy can be quite complicated. But at the end of the day, if we're really able to understand and to see the value and the utility of evaluation in helping us to uncover and understand what works and what doesn't and why and how, and to get deeper into it, then I think there's a powerful argument that can be made also towards policymakers and politicians to help them be able to see the evidence to be able to develop more effective policies, which at the end of the day is also what their constituencies want and what policymakers and politicians also often want to see themselves as well. Rut, it has been a pleasure to speak with you. I so respect and appreciate the work you do in the field, and it has been wonderful to have this opportunity to have this discussion with you. Thank you for joining us in the Indeed Knowledge series.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I hope we will have more opportunities to talk about policy evaluation, and we will be able to share this message that policy evaluation is valuable and it's something to be proud of and to work more on. Thank you very much, Kai.
Thank you.